Okay, today we are playing a game on Blizzard World. We are in the Gold SR range, and we will be playing Torbjorn the entire way through. And we are also on the console today, so consider yourself forewarned. Current team composition is Reinhardt, D.Va, Torbjorn, Genji, Mercy, and Lucio. So Torbjorn, not exactly your traditional attacking hero, though simultaneously these days is actually fine. Like, amazingly enough, we've come a long way with Torbjorn, to a point where I think he is actually, like, not only playable. I think if you were ever in a situation where you were considering picking Reaper, Torbjorn is probably better once you get past, like, Platinum, pretty much. Like, that's the point where we're at, pretty much. Like, isn't it amazing how far we've come? Isn't it amazing to think that, you know, look at launch, Symmetra and Torbjorn, complete just troll picks, and look where we are now. You see these heroes quite frequently now. Isn't it incredible? Isn't it incredible? Anyway, I'm not a big fan of Mercy Lucio as a combo of healers also, because it's just very... I don't really like Mercy as a main healer these days. Ever since they nerfed Mercy's healing, I've not been a big fan of Mercy as the main healer. I think she's better as an off healer now, because then you can just lean into damage boost more, which is kind of all Mercy's got. Because if you compare Mercy to the other main healers in the game, what does she bring that any of the others don't? It's basically just damage boost, you know. We can't say she's got the healing, because obviously she doesn't have that anymore. All the others, I think, have her beaten. I'm pretty sure all the other main healers have her beaten. Moira definitely has her beaten if we're talking about raw healing, and her utility can't even dream of matching Ana or Batista, so it's very meh. Lucio, like, and the reason I don't like the Lucio combo with it is it's just like the combo of healers doesn't bring like a lot of healing, like that much in the way of extra damage or utility either, outside of like speed boost and res. I'm not super excited about it. Can you believe that back in the day, this is just what we had? Like that, oh my god. This is just what we had. As far as healers went, was just Mercy, Lucio, Zenyatta, pretty much. Isn't that... We've come so far. We have come so far. Anyway, so let's just start the game. Let's just start the game. Enough reminiscing about how bad Overwatch was back in the day. Remember when Reaper... One more reminiscence. Remember when Reaper had soul orbs? You had to, like, kill a guy to get a bit of healing. How? And then there was Wraith Form. You couldn't cancel it early. Didn't have the speed boost. Didn't reload your guns. Shadow Step used to be the loudest ability in the game. Oh my god, we've come so far. We've come so far. Anyway, so, we are playing Torbjorn. We are... Like, going through the main gate is always very upsetting on this map, but, you know, if it's what our team has decided to do, it's what our team has decided to do. And, boy, what a bamboozle. Oh, fuck. Roadhog's right next to us. Oh, there goes Lucio. There goes us. We shouldn't keep, like, going forward while this fight's happening behind us, because, like... We go forward, and now, oh fuck, that's happening behind us, but we're still, like, backing up into the enemy team. And, like, yeah, this is a Roadhog, that's scary. It's less scary than the entirety of the enemy team that's gonna be looking at us with no shield in the way now. Some of our teammates managed to get through the gate, but now... They're in there kind of alone, nobody on the enemy team is dead, and now we've got to get in through the gate without our tanks, so that's going to be an arduous process for us. Didn't work out... It's not working out too well for our teammates in there. We should just be going through the side path, like the main gate on Blizzard World is extremely hard to go through. It's okay, we just, like, tear straight through, and oh look, we've gotten here just in time for D.Va to be the only one left alive. This is not a good place for us to have ended up, and I would have rather just waited outside, because inevitably our teammates were going to die in here, and now we're just gonna get staggered. So I would have just rather waited for them to die, and then we regroup outside. Now, we're finally talking about how we're gonna go left instead of straight down the center. Fucking finally. Don't go through the main gate on Blizzard World unless you're playing, like, a dive comp, pretty much. But even then, like, a lot of the time going through the Vikings on the side is still gonna end up being better because you're just closer to the people you're gonna dive on. Though sometimes they're camping the doorway up here, and that can end up being sad. So we've caught Roadhog all the way up here. He was, like, 1,000 miles away from his teammates, so he's fucking dead now. So that's a great start. But our teammates have just immediately gone out there to die. Did Reinhardt charge? Reinhardt better not have charged. There was a bit of a little bit of a temporal displacement here, and Reinhardt's already dead. It looks like Reinhardt probably chose to charge him. And now D.Va's dead as well. Lucio's dead. Riptire's coming right now. I've just heard it. Oh god, here comes the tank. We should have just been, like, getting out the back, like, pretty much as soon as, like, we saw Bastion was turning into a tank, because we're just up here by ourselves, and fortunately they decided they didn't really care enough to come and kill us, so that's nice, but we shouldn't have stayed up there for that long, really. Just risked death. But no death came for us. Don't get punished, don't have to learn. So, one of these days, we might actually see an enemy on the other team, as opposed to the enemies that are on our team. It be like that sometimes. How many times have you viewed your team as the enemy? I know I've done it a fair few times. Even just today, I've viewed my teammates as the enemies. Yeah, I was just gonna call them my enemies right then. One day, we might see an enemy, though, that isn't just Roadhog, because that's kind of all we've really seen so far. We're having a bit of trouble getting a fight going, pretty much. At least one that isn't completely just one-sided right at the start. Oh look, Reinhardt died and D.Va just lost her mech. Fortunately Mercy was able to res Reinhardt this time, but D.Va's still out of mech. Oh, here comes the Rudy Tooty Whiz-Bang shooting. What a fucking mess this game is. Now, we aren't really bringing much in the way to help our teammates as Torbjorn right now. As much as we love Hammerlord Torbjorn, we haven't been bringing a great amount to the team. But to be fair, neither have many people on our team right now either. So, it's a team effort to win, and it's a team effort to lose. So we do have Molten Core built up now. They do have a Bastion team. So Molten Core has a lot of value versus team comps like that, because suddenly, well, I can make it very, very scary for them to just sit in one spot, right? Lucio just used Sound Barrier. Tragically, we didn't get it. There goes Roadhog, fucking dead. Genji's managed to kill Bastion while this was going on. So, hey, just like that, their team comp starts falling apart. It's very convenient for us that Roadhog has got no intention of actually ever positioning well. He is always just like 1,000 miles ahead of his teammates, and then they just fucking kill him. So while that was happening, Bastion was getting killed by Genji, and then that's the whole backbone of their team gone right there, isn't it? So we do still have Molten Core built up. We heard the tire coming. We squad out of the way. He got us. We already captured the point, so us dying at this point is pretty much irrelevant. It wastes a little bit of time, but we already captured the point. That's the main thing. I don't really care if I die, like, right after capturing the point. It's like, well, my spawn's right there now, so who gives a shit, right? And let them waste some ultimates on the fight for the point they already lost. Oh, yeah. That was a little bit egregious. We didn't quite need to go that all in on it. Now, to be fair, it is about sending a message, right? Message clearly sent. There are few messages in life that are more clear than sneaking up behind a man and just putting a funnel in his ass and then pouring molten lead down it. There are few messages more direct than that. But this was a pretty egregious use of company resources all the same. Because we could have just used Overdrive. Is it called Overdrive? Fuck, shows how much Torbjorn I play, right? Fire Dwarf. We could have just engaged Fire Dwarf mode and shot him in his power core. And he is probably dead before he turns around. Especially given he was in a bad spot to begin with. Instead, we used Molten Core to kill him. And fair enough, the guy's fucking dead. But we could have done it without the ultimate. So we used Molten Core to kill this guy that was already almost dead. And now it's done nothing else, because these people have just immediately backed up. So it's providing no zoning, it's not bringing anything in the way of damage, we just use the ultimate to, like, really say, fuck you, Bastion. And I respect that message a lot. I agree, fuck Bastion. Not literally, you fucking savages. But, figuratively, fuck savages. Fuck savages. That's what I was gonna say right there. Fuck Bastion, is what I was gonna say. We are being way too aggro right now, just like running out in front of our teammates in full view of the enemy team. Torbjorn's a pretty easy guy to hit. His head hitbox is like pretty beefy. He's got 250 hit points, which is probably the best buff Torbjorn ever received in his entire life, to be honest with you, is this 50 extra HP. But we're still pretty easy to kill. We can't just like run around in front of our tank line in front of the enemy team without expecting death. And death came for us, as it should be. Reinhardt did land the Earth Shatter right here. There's no reason we can't just, like, run up around Roadhog and start shooting him squarely in the head, at which point, this boy will be dead long before he fucking gets up. Instead, we don't do that. We decide to use Molten Core right now. There's a little bit more to using it this time, because there's a fight still, like, actively going on. But we ended up dumping a lot of it just on Roadhog, and that's pretty far back in terms of the fight overall now, because we're pushing them forward. So, like, we've got all of this right under the payload, which we're about to push forward, and then we've got the little splooge, the little Torbjorn splooge, all the way up here, which is in an inconvenient place for them, but we could get better coverage than this. We could be making it way more upsetting for them to approach by, like, spreading it a little bit more out up here, whereas we ended up using most of it just to kind of kill Roadhog again. So, again, I respect the message of, fuck that guy. He's not actually even dead, he's actually still alive right now. But if we were just trying to kill Roadhog, we could just walk around him while we're overheated, and then just right in the head. He's dead, and then we can fire our splooge all over where they're going to be regrouping for him in the near future, and then that's way more inconvenient than what we did do right there. Molten Core is a really strong ultimate, just because it's like one of the, like, it's good in a fight, and it's good zoning, and it's like, if your team have got any kind of, like, movement abilities on your team, like, Jesus Christ, it's actually fantastic. I love playing Bridget with Torbjorn, because stun a guy, push him into the lava, oh shit, that guy's none too happy about that. Playing Lucio, push the guy into it, oh fuck, he's not too happy about that. Anyway, we're still winning the fight overall, which is fine and good and well. Unfortunately, our turret's not exactly doing a whole lot right now because it's going to prioritize all these Hammond mines, but fuck those mines, right? So we've captured the checkpoint. Hammond's over here still fighting over the checkpoint that they've lost. We did die because we got shot in the back by Bastion, but we've already captured the checkpoint. So again, I don't care if we die right now, to be honest with you. Lucio's going fucking in on that Bastion. Are they going to get him? He was getting pocketed by the Mercy. Nope, he's just turning into a tank right now, so they did not get him. Yep, Lucio's fucking dead. Very scary, tank right over there, but Reinhardt's in the way, and when, you know, it always really upsets me when a Reinhardt player sees Bastion in tank form, and his immediate reaction is, try to pin Bastion, because nothing really counters Bastion's ult quite as much as just holding the shield up. From Reinhardt's perspective, anyway. I guess other than earth-shattering him and killing him. But, like, you just hold the shield up, it's like, does really bad damage to a shield, honestly. But, like, if, you know, it does a big chunk to it, but it's, like, in terms of DPS, it isn't really getting through the shield that fast. So, he just ends up wasting all, or at least most of his ultimate on the shield, and then tank dumped with. But so many Reinhardt players are like, shift key. And then they fucking die because they ran at the tank Bastion from 1,000 miles away, and then their teammates die. Those fucking Reinhardt players, man. So we're hiding from the tire now, by the way, in case you're curious. Fortunately, we're very small, so we're quite hard to see. So we're better at hiding than your average person is. So try not to stand perfectly still, because it just makes it easier for you to get shot. Try and bob back and forth at least a little bit. Try to avoid standing perfectly still. If you stand, there's legends that if you stand still for too long in a game, a Widowmaker will spawn on the map just to headshot you. Not the best angle, on this Molten Core, because we have again we've again just basically used it to kill this one guy. And it's in no way is this really inconvenient for the enemy team, because it's too far back and it's only on one side of the payload. So we could get the same basic effect of killing Bastion by just putting like 1 or 2 bits on him. And then we can start throwing the rest of it back in this direction where, you know, the enemy team is. And, like, behind them, so then they have to, like, retreat through it. And we can chuck some on them as well for good measure, rather than just, like, in one line up towards the Bastion. Because if we can do damage with Molten Core, that's great, but, you know, dumping a bunch of it in one spot isn't really that helpful. Like, if you're doing it to do some damage, great, but, like, try and then also spread the other parts of it out so that it makes the fight as difficult for the enemy team to navigate as possible. It's great zoning ultimate. Like, in terms of teamfight utility, like, Molten Core is pretty up there. Like, Molten Core is mad annoying to fight in and around. It stays around for so long. I've seen so many people just, like, walk over the lava because they forgot it was still there. It's incredible. So we did take a big chunk of damage there. Bastions just use configuration tank. There's something to be said for just, like, hearing tank and then start chucking some lava over there, because, like, we're pretty out of the way, tanks are in front of us, and we could start chucking some lava over there to make it difficult for Bastion to fight, and they're gonna push up to contest the payload at this point, so we can chuck some in and around the payload, and then it makes it harder for Bastion to get in and do his damage, it makes it harder for them to get in and contest the payload, and this is our last fight, right, so we want to make as big of an impact as possible. Again, not the greatest angle on the splooge, because we've drawn a line in the sand, no doubt. Like, that's great, but so if they want to walk towards us, they have to go over it. But that basic effect could be applied by, like, a couple of parts of Molten Core, and then we can start distributing the rest of it back here to make them have to dodge around. Like, Bastion's gonna have to get up and move, and then, like, there's far fewer places they can fight in relative to it. Because if we get a better angle on it, if we back up a little bit, we can see it. So, you know, we've drawn a line right here. We've got, like, this basic pattern going. So, like, that's all no-no zone right there. But if we just use a bit of it, we can do that same thing with, like, 2 or 3 splotches. And then we could go, like, one here, one over here, on here, and then that's way more inconvenient because you still got this area and then a bunch of areas back there they can't stand in, and that just makes it way harder to navigate the fight for them, and it makes it so that, like, if our allies have got any kind of displacement abilities, there's more for them to use. If Reinhardt starts, like, pushing up into somebody, they have to, like, skirt around it to get away from him or take the lava damage as well. It just takes options away from the enemy team by distributing it out in a more even area, rather than unloading it all in one place. Now, granted, we're on console. I get that it's going to be harder to do that on console than PC, where I could go like dink, 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 right? But just like, we want to take as many options away from the enemy team as is possible, and we are going to do that by distributing it over a larger area, because then there's just more space they can't stand in. Anything that takes options away from the enemy team is always going to be great, especially if, like, it takes it away from them by risk of also killing them. You know, like, Symmetra's ult takes options away from the enemy team by erecting this giant barrier between you and them, but the barrier doesn't do damage. Your teammates do damage, and they're protected by the barrier, so that's great. Torbjorn, however, I rate Molten Core as better in most situations because it takes options away from the enemy team by making these spaces they can't stand in, but it also brings damage to it. So, like, you're hurting them by taking the area away from them, and your teammates can then use those zones to help kill people that they're fighting as well. So it's like a two-pronged effort of utility. But just one area of Molten Core. Less good. Less areas denied from the enemy team, which is largely what we're looking for with Torbjorn's ultimate, large area denial. as was the case with most of the heroes that fitted into the defense category, right? It was largely about zoning and area denial for that category, and now we just have DPS. But you think about the people that were in it, right? Like Torbjorn, Junkrat, May, all big, like, area denial characters, right? Even Widow and Hanzo, like, they were nowhere near as good at area denial as people like Junkrat were, but they still did the same thing, because you didn't want to stand out, I mean, you still don't, right? You don't want to stand out in open space in front of a sniper. You need a wall to use as cover or a shield, right? So that's still area denial, though in a less direct manner than someone like Junkrat is, which is, well, I don't want to stand there because there's a fucking grenade in it, right? Like, that's a very direct form of area denial. Anyway, so we're defending now. Much more Torbjorn speed. I don't think there's any reason you can't attack as Torbjorn anymore, to be honest, just because largely Molten Core, and Torbjorn is nowhere near as dependent on his turret as he used to be. But turret defense, still much more Torbjorn speed. We've got the classic setup with the bunker as well, so nice, all nice. We don't have Batista, who, like, really brings the bunker comps together, but it's still fine. Batista better with the Bastion variant of the bunker comp anyway. So Reinhardt decided he wanted to die, which was very convenient, and now we're just going to clean up the rest of the fight. There's somebody up there still alive, but what are they going to do, right? So here's the cool thing about defending as Torbjorn. We can just, like, spam into an area and hope those projectiles hit somebody. Very Hanzo-esque playstyle, though. Getting hit in the face with, like, a droplet of lava is apparently less threatening than getting hit in the face by an entire tree log. Who would have guessed, right? Neither pleasant, but less good payoff for Torbjorn. Though, dude, I've seen a lot of Torbjorns kill a sniper just because, like, alright, I'm gonna spam at that Widow where she's gonna peek. Sooner or later, she's gonna peek, and inevitably they peek and get shot in the fucking face. And then they die to Torbjorn and everyone laughs at them. As you should, that's how God intended it. So the enemy team are approaching from many different locations right now. Here comes McCree, he just used roll. Obviously Flashbang's pretty scary, but he can't, like, fully kill us through Molten Core because we just saw him use roll. Now, if he could have flashed, fanned, rolled, fanned again, we would have died, but we just saw him use roll, so he couldn't do the reload. So this is a little bit more what we're looking for in terms of Molten Core, because we've spread it out over a little bit of a wider area, but we also were very low when we started using it and kept running into the enemy team. We can chuck Molten Core from pretty far away, so we didn't really have to go in that aggressively while we had like 90 hit points. And there's like the health kit in that Snacks Ramus, so we could have just gotten that and then gone out there and started fighting. It's not the Snacks Ramus the large health kit's in, it's like this room right next to us. But I forget what this attraction's called. Snacks Ramus is an attraction behind us. It's some kind of mines. Can we see the sign? It's definitely a mine, but I can't see the first part of the name. God damn it. They clearly label so much on this map. That's the great thing about Blizzard World, right? It's got all these really clear things you can call out, right? Snacks Ramus, the Vikings, or Lost Vikings, I should say. The tank, right? Like, you got a lot of very clearly labeled attractions you can call out. The Flight of Duskwood. I've never heard a single person call it that, but the Flight of Duskwood. Anyway, so they're starting to come down over there from the Flight of Duskwood. There's a couple of people that are just coming straight up the middle still. Oh no, they're all sort of starting to reconvene over there and come up the middle. We just heard Rip Tire, which is why we're scattering backwards. Ooh, we saw the tire go by, but it decided not to come for us, which is nice. We did use our overdrive. I've called it like 3 different things, I think, so far. We used it for not a great reason over here, because we used it like right here, basically just kind of to do more damage to the shield, really. Which means like we don't have it to fight with in the near future, right? It's a 12-second cooldown. It's like really scary. It's actually a really scary cooldown. And boy, would we like to have it right now so that we can fight this Roadhog, but didn't have it, so we still fought him off, so all's well, but a little bit scarier than if we had Overclock. I just called it something different again. It's over something. Overdrive, overclock, overheat. It could be any of these three things, and they'd all mean essentially the same thing. Well, overheat doesn't quite mean the same thing as the others, but for Torbjorn it does. Hey, so here's Ash, and she's just machine gunning into us right now. Why don't we have overdrive right now? Because we used it. We had to go back real far for this one. I guess it's fair enough. Like, it's not the end of the world. So there is a small health kit in here. We could be going for it. Like, as soon as we see Ash, we're not really favored to fight Ash while we're reloading. You know, if we're reloaded, we could just press right up into Ash and start shotgunning her. But tragically, we're reloading at the time. So we want to, like, try and get the small health kit or reconvene with our teammates instead, because we gotta buy a little bit of time until this reload finishes. So we die. Fight not going awful in our absence, wasn't going well, but then D.Va just saved the point pretty much by killing 4 people. We would have probably gotten most of our team back in time to fight over this again anyway, but great job D.Va making it significantly easier. So again, we have not a great use of Molten Core, because we've dumped it on Bob right here, most of it. And just one patch under Bob is going to be as good, but like Molten Core is also never going to kill Bob really, unless we've got help to kill him. So I'd rather just disperse it more over the point, more in like Reinhardt's area, like hem him into the back, try and force him to walk forward, and then spread some more of it out over the point so that any people that are reinforcing again have more options taken away from them in terms of contesting the objective. But either way, we win the point we win the game rather regardless, so don't get punished, don't have to learn. So, yeah, unsurprisingly, D.Va got the play of the game, who would have guessed? Yep, D.Va earned the endorsement, no doubt. Oh, Roadhog. I like to imagine that killed one more person doing that. Like, someone was hiding around the corner. Oh, up she goes. We did a lot of damage. Good job, us. Good job, us. It's been a while since I've seen the deflected medal for Genji. So, thing that stood out the most in that game, pretty much just not great use of Molten Core, largely just putting it in one area rather than really leaning into its area denial, and, basically. Largely using it just to, like, really fuck one guy, which sends a clear message to that guy, but we can get better use out of the ultimate than that. I know, harder to do that kind of, like, flipping it around multiple areas thing on console, but we still want to just take as many options from the enemy team as possible, and that's going to entail, like, wider dispersal of our load. So that's the thing that stood out the most anyway. So thank you very much for watching. If you did, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer. If you haven't already, you can join our Discord and ask questions more directly and have a conversation about them, or just shitpost with us. I've started streaming on Twitch Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 8 p.m. EST till midnight. There's a link to the channel in the description. And if you managed to make it all the way through the video and somehow still enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe for more content of middling quality in the future. And I hope you found the video helpful.